Want to get your talk on? Coz Carson is ready at 1-866-429-9755 toll free. You're listening to USTalkNetwork.com.
866-429-9755. If you'd like to speak with Linda and John Johnson, get online right now because they're coming up. That's Journey, Land of Confusion. I'm sorry, that's Genesis, Land of Confusion. And that's exactly what this land has turned into when a nation turns its back on one of their soldiers and does a shoddy job or even a deliberate job of covering up an atrocity such as the atrocity that took the life of young LaVena Johnson. Joining me on the program right now, Dr. John Johnson and his wife, Linda Johnson, the parents of LaVena Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us on U.S. Talk Network.
Okay, I'm here. My wife's coming.
Okay, very good. I want to thank you for your courage, sir. I know that you've been fighting for this for a long time, and as I've been telling my listeners, we just really got a grip on the story, and it happened back in 2005. Just take us through the scenario of how you learned about it. And then we'll get into what they've been telling you, some of the curveballs being thrown, for lack of a better term, and where your family is now as far as your resolve to get to the bottom of this. How did you find out about it, and what did they tell you?
I'm going to let Linda talk about what happened on the 19th.
Okay.
Actually, the 18th and then the 19th.
Very good. Can you turn them up a little bit for me, please? Okay,
Hello.
Miss Johnson, how are you?
I'm okay.
It's
better.
It's a pleasure to speak with you again.
Thank you.
As I was telling my listeners, we had a long conversation last night, and I got to learn a lot more about you and your husband. Let me say, first of all, that I am encouraged by your strength and your resolve, and we look forward to standing with you and fighting with you all the way to get justice for your daughter.
Thank you so much.
If you would, ma'am, could you tell our listeners how you found out about your daughter and what they told you at the onset?
First of all, I had spoke with my daughter July 17th. We had a long conversation talking about her plans for coming home and letting me know that she may be coming home earlier than expected. And we were both very excited about that. And we laughed, and we were making plans even all the way for Christmas because that was her favorite time of the year. Never expecting that would be the last conversation I had with my daughter. We spoke about an hour because she was on break from her job. And she had told me that she may call me the very next day, which would be Monday, July 18th. And she said, and I told her, if you don't get a chance to call me, it'll be okay. Just call me as soon as you can. And we ended our conversation. We always ended it by saying, I love you, back and forth, and we never would say goodbye at any time she would call. Mm-hmm. So we ended that conversation, and we finally, I don't know who hung up first, because we laughed until we said, I love you, and hung up the phone. The very next day, the 18th of July, at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, there was a ring at my doorbell, and it startled us because everyone was asleep. I jumped up and I looked out my second-floor bedroom window, and I saw one soldier at the door. And immediately my heart just began to race. Mm-hmm. And I told John, I said, John, there's a soldier at the door. And he hit the floor or something, and he said, oh, no. And he ran downstairs. I began crying. I couldn't even make it any farther than my balcony because I just knew that they just don't come to the door for hello. It had to be something terribly wrong. John opened the door, and he opened a little black book, and he asked the question, Dr. John Johnson, are you the father of Private LaVena Johnson? And he said, yes, I am. And then he looked up, he heard me crying, and he saw me, and he asked, are you Linda Johnson, mother of Private LaVena Johnson? And I just screamed, yes, I am. What do you want? And he opened a little black book, and he began to read that they regretfully informed us that our daughter, LaVena Johnson, was dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And I don't think I could hear anything else because I began screaming and crying. And I thought I was in a terrible nightmare. And I just ran to get my other children and try to let them know, and they heard me screaming and crying. And my two younger children, they came out and they heard me and they said, Mom, but is she dead? Is she dead? And I said, they say she's dead. And then I made it to my two older sons. And I was screaming, trying to tell them what this man was saying. And I looked at John, and he had fell back on the stairs. And he had his hands in his head. And I don't remember anything else that man said because I collapsed in my older son's arms. And that was the beginning of the worst days of our life. And, John, I don't know what else he told you after that.
I just asked him if there was anything he could do for us. I told him, you can't bring my daughter back, so I put him out.
We're speaking with Mr. Dr. John Johnson and his wife, Linda Johnson, the parents of LaVena Johnson. Thank you so much for relating that to us, Mrs. Johnson.
Okay.
One thing that strikes me is this was the day after you spoke to your daughter, correct?
Yes, it was.
How in the world does the military determine within less than 24 hours the cause of death? It takes longer for them to determine the cause of death from soldiers in the theater of war, in the field, oftentimes, than 24 hours. That would be the first red flag for me, is that they reach that determination with less than 24 hours. Your ordeal since then has been to try to first of all, clear your daughter's name. And this is what I hate about what is going on here. They are making your daughter the victim of the actual culprit here.
Absolutely.
I have heard some things, and I spoke with Congressman Clay just minutes before I came on the air today. And he explains to me this scenario, and I want to get your reaction to it. That the Army says, and he has said that it sounds somewhat dubious to him, and I will give him credit for that, but that the Army says your daughter had began a relationship with a man who left to go back to Kentucky. That she was distraught because he had left, and that she had sent countless emails that were not returned. He never answered her. And that she had told others on the base she did not want to live anymore, and she began to give away her personal effects. He also told me that the Army says that she began to tear the pages from her diary and set them on fire. Thus the tent was on fire, and that she put that weapon, which had to be longer than her arm, into her mouth and shot herself. That the Army said they could not find the bullet because it went through an open window in the tent. That the Army says this is a cut and dry case and that they no longer want to deal with it. I want to get your reaction to that, and then I want to talk about what you've learned and what you know.